Alright, hey guys, welcome back to the official Colonial Charter Mod Let's Play. I'm Brockens, and I'm going to be continuing this game that we started yesterday. Kind of tutorial walkthrough. Hopefully we'll be able to get to the mod-specific content, and I'll be able to walk you through the chains. Again, hopefully justify our design decisions and give you some of the historical background behind what we did. So I did play a little bit in between the last video and this one just to speed things up a tiny bit. We are using the 1-to-1 aging mod, and that does tend to really slow down the games, at least in the early stages. So what I did do was I added a couple of citizens just so we'd have some more labor force, and I ran the game for a few months, got the herbalist finished. I'm married to an Australian and she says herbs, so blame that. But the herbalist will start getting this nutritional health damage getting fixed. And the reason why we have that health loss is because we're so nutritionally limited. If you look, they've got meat and a little bit of blueberries and some of the original potatoes left, but they don't have any vegetables or fruit or anything like that, really. Right now we're feeding our town off our gatherer, our fisherman, and our hunter. And this is pretty common on a hard start because you don't have any crop seeds or orchard seeds. So we're going to keep things running while we're talking here. And I did learn a few things during the last video and hopefully make this one a bit smoother. So this year in the town, we should be good for winter. We do want to start getting more houses up. And I just noticed that we have low tools. And you remember in the last video I said that as soon as you got your food situation under control, you really got to start working on the tools situation. And I see a lot of people playing the game who don't maybe know this, or maybe just don't optimize for it. But it is important to have tools and to have your citizens be educated. The amount of increased productivity that you get from having an educated worker is super important. And the hard game here is all about managing your resources and your labor force efficiently, and micromanaging things early on so that they are up to speed quickly. So for prioritization purposes, we do want to get this forester lodge up and running eventually, but we have plenty of wood. So I'm going to chuck a pause on that, and we're going to concentrate on this blacksmith, of which we sure enough have plenty of resources to do. One compromise I do make with the 1-to-1 aging mod is the more resources mod helps you kind of keep your pace up a little bit, and I think it balances the game better for imagining that these people are living 4 to 5 times longer. But it's just a personal preference, and we don't necessarily recommend that you play with more resources with the Colonial Charter mod. We try to balance it so that you don't have to, but it does make it a little bit different of a gameplay style, and I prefer it because, like I said before, I don't have to clear cut giant areas of forests or stone or anything like that, which seems weird. Okay, so they're gonna get this blacksmith up and running. One thing, sometimes on the maps that I play, there are not any hills or mountains until you get to the very edge of the map. I've made sure not to do that this time. That can be a real pain when you're trying to get your iron economy up and running, and you've got to somehow extend your town, across 50% of a giant map to get to an area where you can build a mine into a hill. So I've made sure for this Let's Play we have a little bit better map, and thanks to I believe it's the huge terrain, more terrain by Cygnus. Yeah, this one works so much better than the one I was using before, which I won't mention. That one was also good. It just had crash issues, had that issue with the mine being so far away. Alright, so blacksmith, we want to get him up and running, him or her up and running ASAP. And we'll keep an eye on this herbalist, okay? Herbalist and woodcutter at this point, you don't need to staff them all the time, although when the woodcutter's got full, resource limit, I believe he does act as a laborer, so you can, leave him there. It's not that big of a deal, but we do want to get the blacksmith going ASAP. Like I said, we need those tools, and we just ran out entirely. So, and we're gonna do log and iron for now on iron tools. That's really the only feasible thing. We are in progress with this update. Gonna update the tool chain. There'll be an upgraded version of the blacksmith like there is for our tailor, and that will make advanced tools and some other things, some advanced construction materials and things, but it'll make the blacksmith chain a little bit more challenging. And you can see our frozen citizens are going over to the one house to warm up. We did not actually build any houses for them this year, but that's okay. The only thing it'll affect is their reproduction. Need to unpause this Forester Lodge and make sure they have something to work on. And then I think what we'll do next is get that trader up. It's really important to get seeds, you know. It's year 2 already. There are some games where I don't get seeds until year 15. But we'll do the best we can to get them as fast as possible. And here's a good time to maybe talk a little bit about seeds and what you want to get and what the point of all the seeds are. So, you know, there are 5 food groups, or 7. I think there's like fruit, vegetable, grain, protein, which includes meat and nuts, and maybe one more. When we make things like dairy and cheese, things like that, we have to kind of be creative with what food groups we put them in. Cheese bread, I think, is a protein and a grain, for example, since there's no like dairy food group in the game. And we wish we could make more, you know, that would be awesome. But somebody's going to have to call Luke Hodorowitz up and be like, hey, it's worth making more flags for this game because it's infinitely moddable. But anyway, when you get seeds from the trader, you really want to get a nice balance going. You want your grains, you want your vegetables, you want your fruit, orchards. Nuts can help if you don't have pasture animals or you don't have a lot of protein options. We're just going to get a forester going. Things are all pretty close here, so I think one builder will have a decent enough time working on the trading posts. But the other kind of thing that we've added for crops is textiles, right? And the way that we do that is there is a textile flag in the game. It is not finished, and it doesn't really work. It doesn't have its own resource limit. There's some issues with it. But we do use it for things like flax and hemp and tobacco, uncured tobacco, things like that. And that does seem to work fairly well for the way that we want the game to run. So you do need to get flax or hemp to get your ropery up and running. And the way that the mod exists as of this update, rope is an extremely important resource for building higher tier buildings and doing some of the colonial content. And, you know, we'll fully admit, it's tough to get rope, and it was even tougher in the last beta because there was a million traders. But it is like the one thing you should be trying to do right from the beginning. If a trader comes with hemp seeds or flax seeds, you know, you break your back to get those so that you can get your rope economy up and running. Let's put in a road here. Now, the thing about roads is a lot of people like build them around everything all the time. I tend to wait until I watch a fairly heavy, you know, pedestrian trafficked route, and then, you know, improve that route with roads. I think that since they take the priority of construction away from whatever you're trying to do, they can be dangerous to build when, you know, you don't know if you have enough labor force to build the building you want to build and also the roads you just placed. So I think we're going to put more houses in now. I wanted to show you, there are some new housing types in this new, this is a beta, this will be the next update before Christmas here. This is a log cabin, a little bit cheaper, smaller, less capacity resource house. We've got our country house chain in now, and in this update we have all these upgradable housing chains. They each have 3 or 4 upgrades. This is our new like flagship house, Colonial Manor, built to Georgian accurate, you know, colonial construction type methods. One thing that typified colonial era construction and architecture methods, at least in the United States, or the pre-United States, was these very straight up and down windows that are symmetrically balanced with these columns. It's a very, and you can see it later in like the Federalist architecture style, which is more like 1700s, 1800s. If you go to Washington, D.C., or if you go to Philadelphia, if you go to Boston, you're going to see a lot of houses with these kind of straight up and down symmetrical layouts that you won't see elsewhere very much. They were a very period specific kind of architecture, but like Monticello and George Washington's homestead and places like that all kind of look like that. But I think for now, for the purposes of housing our citizenry, we're going to stick to stone houses. And I'm going to do that because I want to house a lot of people with rope later, but this is a good early game option. And as far as placement goes, one thing to think about with your houses now, there's a couple different philosophies of this. I like to make sure that my market, my first market, has all of the houses that I've built and that I plan to build in this area within its radius. So, you know, you want to make sure you have your forest hub radius up, and then you want to place this fairly early in a place that'll cover a lot of your area, like this, for example. This will cover all of my current town area and not overlap with my forest hub too much. And the great thing is that I don't have to build it. I can just place it and pause that thing and wait a bit until that's actually something I want my economy to have. But by leaving the construction window open here, I get the radius, so that when I'm placing houses, I can make sure they're inside the radius. And I've seen people who say, okay, and they use this pathing tool. If you don't know about this pathing tool shows you where people live and work and where they come from. People say that you got to build houses over in your forest hub so that they don't have long to walk. I disagree. I honestly think it's better to have your town all within range of your marketplace so they don't starve, and then give them good roads and do pathing. Use our fences. You know, make sure that people are walking in the most efficient directions and try to decrease the amount of time it takes, not the distance. If you think about it, right, in the modern world, in real life, it's tough to... Here's a great example, okay? Siberia, right? The Russian Empire kind of pushed along Siberia and settled it in the 1800s by building a railroad out there and then developing towns around railroad stations, and then from those towns kind of moving further into the hinterland. It's very, very tough to enable a settlement that's super far away without some kind of infrastructure support. So for me, from RP ability and like historical and realistic kind of things, I don't like to have houses in my forest hubs because it's just too damn far away from civilization. And I was talking with some of the mod guys, the mod team, about this yesterday. You know, Europeans or colonial people imported so much of their stuff. They were dependent on Europe, you know, largely until the 1780s or 1800s for some of their things. So, you know, it'd be tough for them to sustain life far out into the wilderness of colonial America without, you know, help. So we have just run out of stone and iron, and that's because it's all getting pumped into the trading post. Looks like we do need a little more iron, and I'm going to mark some stone for collection as well. Babe, can you turn the heater on? It's freezing in here. Some of that selected so that our idle folks can do that. We have about 2,000 food, so I'm going to grab a couple of these foodies to do some of this building for now. Because trading post and the time in which it takes to build that is a fairly important thing for our next step. So maybe this is a good time while we're watching this happen, and let's make sure nobody starves or dies or anything. But we got tools. Actually, we have tools up to our limit. So generally what I'll do is once that blacksmith gets tools in, I'll pull them off and have them work on other projects. Let's throw this down to 5. I know we want to get through it, but I don't want to miss it. Let's talk about flags. Oh, we got so much new stuff in here, guys. I'm even lost. Oh, there they are. So, flags. I mentioned this a little bit last time, but we have tried to implement this kind of feasible alternate history, 1660 to 1750, into this mod. And to do so, we decided we wanted some flags. You can brand your colony with a specific country, European country or patron, and you know, it makes it feel more real and everything. Ours is called St. Buckets. I bet we're probably some kind of British or Scottish colony, but I wanted to walk through the flag choices that we've got. This here's the French flag from the era. It was actually related to the standard of Louis XIV, I believe, who was the king in 1660. And It's got little fleur-de-lis in gold and on white background. If you're familiar with France being the tricolore, the red, white, and blue stripes up and down, that came much after this. That was post-independent or post-revolutionary France. So this is definitely the flag of France at the time and would have flown over New France and Quebec in those areas as they were being colonized. Let's keep our trading post in view. The next one that we've got, and if you didn't know, you can hit F to cycle through these. We have a lot of buildings that do that as well. But this is the Danish Dannebrog, and we might adjust it. It does look a bit fat. But the Dannebrog was really a square flag, and there's some limitations with how they have to be rectangular to fit with everything else. And let me just pause here to close this. They're going to work on this house. We're going to be trading mainly firewood here. So we're going to have to take a second to get that going. But let me finish talking about the Dannebrog at least. Oops. There. So the Dannebrog is a Danish flag from the period. I lived in Denmark for a while. Loved it there. Copenhagen is a beautiful city. Saw this flag often. The modern version of it. This is the flag of the Spanish Netherlands and Burgundy. So that area is super confusing around this point in time. If you play games like EU4 or Crusader Kings, things changed hands. There was cultural questions, were they, they were owned by Austria, they were owned by Spain for a while. This is the flag of Spain and Burgundy in that era. So if you have a Spanish colony, this is the most appropriate flag. I believe it's a specific family, like the Spanish Habsburgs or something like that. Habsburgs. I could look that up and tell you next time. This is the flag of Augsburg, which is a city state that existed in Germany at the time. If you didn't know, Germany unified around 1870 or 80. And a lot of people don't know that. It wasn't a country, Germany, until after the American Civil War. So before that, they were all kind of little independent regions, and Augsburg was one that actually did finance some colonial expeditions to the Caribbean. And I don't think they went that well, but I think they owned a couple of the Caribbean islands that kind of changed hands a lot during the time period. So I'll get into setting up our trading now, and I'll go through more of those flags later. So you always hear talks about people bitching about the firewood economy, and there's something to be said for that. Really, the early game is all about just getting firewood and trading it. But we're going to do that because it works. And in Colonial Charter Mod, we haven't really got any good early stage products to make that are better to trade than firewood. I think maybe candles is a good one because you get your apiary up and running, make beeswax, and then make candles relatively soon. And then candles are 8 value, but they just don't get made as fast as the firewood. If you got plenty of trees, and especially if you got this more resources mod on, it's not as much of a pain to do your firewood economy in that way. Okay, so we're going to start loading firewood into there, and we're going to need a trader to do that. And we're going to have to build some more buildings here in a second, probably a few more houses. But you don't want to completely bankrupt your amount of stored firewood as you load this guy up. You want to do it in stages and make sure your woodcutter can keep up with the demand that your housing is going to have. Now, granted, we only have 2 houses right now, so we'll have more soon. Just chuck a couple more rooms here. And we should leave space for some decorative elements. I like to leave space that's either 3 tiles or 5 tiles in between things. That lets you do a fence each and trees in between, or a little park. We're gonna just throw these in there. They're definitely gonna need to harvest more stone and iron, so we'll set them up doing that. And one of our next things to do is build a tailor and then start thinking about getting a quarry and a mine set. But let's leave the trading post up here. It's already got the 200 firewood. So we'll wait till it fills up again and we'll put more in. You need to get 625 units of firewood or things that are worth 4 into your trading post. 625 is what gets you seeds. Seeds are worth 2,500 if you don't order them. And remember, one of my house rules is you never order seeds or animals. It's just cheating. It's in my opinion. I don't know. These people, they get what they get. But 625 is the magic number that adds up to 2,500 even. So you just want to make sure you got at least 625 in here, and then we're going to leave it at that for a while. I think we're also going to throw some venison in here since we have a lot. And if a food trader comes, you want the ability to trade that for vegetables and fruit that will keep your citizens more healthy, and then you can not worry about the herbalist so much. Which has been gathering a buttload of herbs. That is another option for early game trading. I'll show you what they're worth by throwing some in here. They're worth 4 as well. I don't know. It's debatable. Like, you're going to use them. And you can get an abbey and maybe make herbs that way and trade them early game. You can have an herbalist with 2 people and an abbey with 1 person, and that'll add up to a pretty prolific herb output. But I don't know if that's like a good gameplay strategy on this hard with the 1-to-1, because you're really at a loss for like labor force. And I don't remember if I mentioned, but I did add 1 family of people in with the debug mod before I started this episode, so things would happen a little bit more quickly. And we're actually going to bump this up to 10x speed right now while we're just finishing these houses. So our future market is here. We're going to kind of develop this area. I think we'll have some like bank barns along this hill and do farming in this area once we get some crops. If we have pastures, we'll throw them, you know, up here or something like that. I do want to build a bridge over this way and get my next market maybe like yonder. Cover these little islands and get some cool stuff on there. And I'm actually going to use these islands to show you a super amazing thing that I made Shock Puppet make. Because I was like, we need to have this. And I made him fix it, and I just whined and whined and whined until it was something cool. But basically we have shore walls now, so we're going to shore wall off these islands and make little artificial forts. Maybe we can actually just place some of that right quick. Just to show you what it's like. Yeah. That looks cool. It is 0 build cost. Again, like, guys, I know. Like, that's not the freaking most ideal way to do this. Like, oh, if we had all the, you know, ability, we would do it differently. But, like, we don't. You know? The game is what it is. It's not infinitely extendable with all the mechanics. But we try our best, right, to, like, do these things in a way where that they're enjoyable to play. And that's all you can do, you know? We understand the community has, you know, expectations and standards, and we do too. We do the best we can, and we're all players of this game, and we like to play it, and we want to make it fun for us to play it too. So, I'm also going to put in some trees. This is a new tree. This is a Buckeye tree. I actually made this one, which I don't make a lot of stuff for the mod, but I made this one with the help of Crowlyard. And this is a native tree to the Midwest and kind of East Coast. And my college, for example, is the Buckeyes. It's a poisonous nut, but for some reason we made that our mascot. Okay, we need to kind of turn this back down a little bit. I'm getting that tree in. I've showed you guys the shore wall a little bit. This will enable you to kind of make your waterfronts a little nicer, and it works really well with trading posts, Warford ship that we have. We also have a shore wall specific house, which you can build on flat river sections that integrates really nicely with the shore wall. As you can see, if I can rotate my camera, you've got the wall itself kind of built in, and you can extend that on either side. I'm not going to place that now. We got to figure out what we're going to have our builders do next. So we do need a tailor. Town services is important. Tailor. There you go. Scissors. Right. And now that we know where our town kind of center is, I don't want to get too much of the production in that area. I kind of want it more on that outline. Regions. Let's put it down here. And again, I'm giving it 3 spaces. Firewood. It's full again. More in there. can work on the tailor. And I think we'll start doing some of these colonial things here pretty soon. Oh, we do have, if you don't know, this is new for the beta, but this was a standalone mod before that a guy named Raging Nonsense made. It's a sawmill, and it's way more efficient than having a billion woodcutters around. We have gotten his blessing to integrate that into our mod, so it is now a part of Colonial Charter, and you do not need to install it separately. We're going to speed this up, continue to load the firewood up, and we'll hope that our first trader is a doozy, and that we get some good stuff right off the bat. Again, just trying to get this up to 625, and it's going to bitch at you about it, but, you know, shut up, Banished. I know what I'm doing. Herbalists hit the production limit. The problem with the herbalists is, like, you gotta have somebody working there, or else your citizens don't actually heal. So even if you build an abbey and you have herbs out the wazoo, you're going to need an herbalist, and they're going to actually have to walk over there and use it. So sometimes later in the game, I build an herbalist like in my main town, next to the abbey or whatever, and the hospital, and do a little like health area, STD clinic. All right. Oh wow, we only have about 5 minutes left on this episode, but let me talk more about the flags where they pulled that stuff. Okay, this flag is, I think, Tuscany. Tuscany actually had some colonial efforts. Again, Italy wasn't a state in Europe at that time, just like Germany. It also became a unified country around... Oh hey, we had a kid born! Johannan. Oh, welcome. So there was an actual Tuscan attempt to colonize, I believe, South America, Venezuela. This one's Scotland. Scotland had this thing called the Darien Scheme, where they tried to send a crapload of colonists to Panama to be independent of Britain a little bit and, you know, benefit from the trade. And they were going to do this whole, like, trade monopoly thing. Yeah, everybody got malaria and died, and it was a huge failure. but you know, maybe in our alternate world that didn't happen, and Scotland has some successful colonies. In fact, I wonder if St. Buckets is actually a Scottish colony. I think it is. So we're going to place that flag. Here's the flag of Portugal from the time. Portugal, you know, was one of the major colonizers. Portugal had land all the way from modern-day Brazil to Africa to parts of India to parts of Indonesia and stuff. So they were really prolific colonizers and traders. And, they had tons and tons of colonial stuff all over the world. This one is, oh my god, I might have forgotten. Poop. I'll come back to that one. That one's Sweden. The Swedish had... Oop, we got our trader. You're gonna have to wait, Sweden. Oh yeah. So, about this bug. This bug happens on my system. I've seen it happen on other people's systems, but it doesn't happen on the other systems of the guys that work on the mod, so I haven't been able to really get it looked at or figured out. We will get it fixed, I hope, unless it's a game limitation. Oh, Dedricky, you brought me nothing good. Glass is not really worth trading for. You can make it easily with a shore house that has sand. The shore house being this guy. You build a shore house, you have it make sand, and then you take the sand to the glassworks and turn it into glass with some kind of fuel. I think we use coal or fuel bundles or firewood. I'm not going to trade for that now. I am going to order rope from this guy. That will enable us to build some of the colonial buildings earlier than we would if we hadn't gotten like hemp, or if we got hemp or flax seeds, and we don't have those yet. So always order rope if you can. Again, it's not against my house rules to order resources. I can imagine that in the past, but you know, ordering seeds and stuff like that just seems cheap because you can just pick whatever you want. And I think it's really interesting when you get stuck with the things like the random generator brings you this. We'll take care of Dedricky, see you later, and we'll have firewood enough to buy your seeds by the time you go back. Well, not you. Some guy with better better selection. So we'll set that to 625. We're going to not have to monitor that as much anymore. Our Buckeye tree is done. Let's see how that So buckeyes, and you can see them, they form in this like shell or peel. It's like a really thick grapefruit, and it's around like a nut that's brown and has a spot on it. But they're close to my heart. I used to have them around my house, like I said, for my school. So. Flags. I want to just finish the... God, I wish I remembered what that one was. I think it's a German state. Okay, so Sweden. Yeah, Sweden had some Caribbean islands, as well as New Sweden, which was near New Jersey and like Philadelphia area, and a lot of place names in that area are still Swedish. There's like Swedesboro, I think, is one of them. Our tailor's finished, so we are going to have somebody work there while we do this. This flag, okay, so this was meant to be the Dutch flag from 1660-ish, and I was having a conversation on Reddit. This might not be accurate. I accidentally might have grabbed the Prince's Royal Standard, which has the orange on top instead of the red. So we're going to fix this. I'm not exactly sure what flag is right. As I said before, that whole area and period of time is really confusing. The Dutch states had just unified into a republic, and included parts of Belgium, and it was just parts were Austrian, and it was just really confusing. So I know they were colonizing like crazy during this period of time. I mean, the Dutch were like the Portuguese. They were everywhere. They went all the way from New York City was a Dutch colony to islands in the Caribbean, to South America, to Africa, to India, to Indonesia, you know, all the way. I mean, I think a Dutch guy discovered Australia even. So good on you, Dutch. You were like, we don't have enough land, and we need to go get more. So they made some out of the Flevoland there. Is a part of the Netherlands is like artificially constructed. But anyway, here's our fake imaginary Viking flag for a Viking colony that survived in Newfoundland past 1401. I don't know. I made this. I'm a fan of vexillology. I'm not an amazing flag maker or designer, but that raven is based on the actual flag that was used for the Vinland colony. So I don't know. If you have a better one, submit it. You know, we'll use it. This is the flag of Brandenburg, Prussia, and I really appreciate the guy on Reddit who made this for me, but Prussia and Brandenburg won a fan vote, and when I was doing research, I realized that they were unified at this time under this weird personal union, and it was really unclear what flag they would have used. But this is actually one of my favorite looking flags that we have in-game. I really like this one. And Brandenburg, Prussia did lease an island in the Caribbean for a little bit, and attempted to settle it, but they didn't do very well. This one's the craziest one to me. The Knights Hospitaller, they're like the Knights of Malta, Crusaders, French, Western European Crusaders left over on Malta after the Ages of Crusades was over. These guys actually did run 4 Caribbean islands for like 15 years, and it's just really bizarre to think about. Like, they were like borderline theocratic. Anyway, Great Britain, you guys know this one. You know what it's about. This is an accurate flag for the era. It's not the modern flag. And we're back to France. So I'll figure out what that other one was next time. We did get a lot of our citizens housed. There's still a few more that need it. We got our forest hub completely up and running. We have our basic town services in Blacksmith and Tailor, and everybody's healthy and happy, and it only took us about 3 or 4 years on a hard start. So I will continue this Let's Play. You guys seem to like it. People are watching it, and we will see what happens to the old Scottish town of St. Buckets, left to their own devices. And we'll come back to visit them, and we'll get them up and running on some of the colonial production chains next episode. Thanks so much for watching. Comment, send us stuff, correct me about my flags, and we'll make this mod even better. Alright guys, thank you so much. Take care.